Over here.
Our genealogy on how to research Norwegian. Yeah, there'll be trees there from Deidre. Deidre, the girl from Iceland. Sam?
What do you want to get? Hawaiian? Hawaiian. That's what I'm getting.
You misunderstood my comment. I didn't mean to oppose Joel. I just said I didn't. I said I approve it. I read it 2 or 3 times. But okay. No, I no any reason I wouldn't.
Yeah. No, that's
I've
great.
never had a conflict or anything. So he would be fine for me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, okay.
I think he read that. I read. I just probably worded it kind of awkwardly. I think. I don't know what we want to do with that board position or not. You have somebody else. Does he not want to do it, or does he want to do it?
Joel?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard from him. So,
They've got somebody else too. I saw it just come back by an email.
yeah, Sam was talking about. Yeah. No, I didn't think so.
I got you coming up before Chief.
Oh, okay. Is that okay? Because I was thinking today I could do it at home.
You should.
These notes have been discharged.
Yes, so I have a Google Slide. That's fine. Just to sign in. Or should I attach my computer?
We can do that too. Let me think for a second. I have a Google slide that I'm using for
I can
this.
share it too or something if that's helpful.
If you can share it, that would be great.
Do you have a Wi-Fi here?
Although, yeah, actually, why don't we just sign you? I don't think that's a problem to sign you into
Okay.
Google. I will. That's probably easier. Here we go. Go ahead and sign in here.
Okay.
Aside from the one saying I've paid my bill, I know that's official, I have paid my bills on automatic. Yeah, that's how come I was so leery about, I had a friend with Mr. Bob or whatever, and it's like, yeah, he's not on, so okay, I did it. He said, yeah, you got it. No, it's bad. It's bad.
Hello.
Have you had a chance to look at the menu?
I have not.
I would recommend taking a look at this sooner than later so I can get
Okay.
the food before you have to start talking.
Okay. Sure, that would be great.
Knock you down.
Can I just do a bowl of the
wait.
Actually, sorry, I'll just do a Caesar salad.
Going on already?
Chicken?
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, that'd be fun. Where's that hill? Very nice. Very nice. I was gonna say, that's where I think you would go. Hi, Dave. What time do you want me to drop by? With your new tugboat. Good question. You're taking the next 3 days up. Oh, really? I'm coming over with this truck. Yes. Well, I gotta get my house in order to sell. You need a house? No. You want a house? I have a house. Green. Don't hard. Southeast of the trees. That's a beautiful area.
I'm trying to do a two-factor authentication,
Oh,
and I'm
man.
not getting the message.
Okay.
So, if you could tell me the Tugboat Annie's Wi-Fi.
Tugboat Annie's Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Password is viewpoint 2100.
Okay.
Or if it's easier to download it and email it to me, that you can do that too. Whatever works.
I have one that floats. It's called a sailboat.
Okay.
His mermaid's gonna come look at my bottom.
2100.
I think so, yeah.
He has a real life mermaid.
That's not working.
He's got a tail and everything.
Is it capital V?
Yes.
And then I got a tank that has 6 wheels.
Is it all capital?
No, actually connect to the Wi-Fi network that's Viewpoint. Is that what you did?
No, I
Okay,
did
do
Tugboat Annie.
okay, do Viewpoint. Sorry. I try that again. Viewpoint 2100. Oh, okay. And if that doesn't work, I'm gonna grab our guy. Oh, there he is.
Think about you guys as I do that across. Send little updates to the captain.
We sit there for a little while.
My last session yesterday.
You still verifying.
Oh, yeah, don't use that.
That's,
Oh,
yeah, I did.
Give her the capital Z. Viewpoint. But we just make a file. First quarter, let's start heading down. What are you making?
Okay, I'm in. So can I
Oh, great.
share it to your email address, or what's the best
Yes.
way to do it?
Still selling tickets to your breakfast lives, or is that over? Did I miss it?
It's the 24th of this May. I think it's this way.
Still take Try they again?
Okay. I just did that.
I just have to watch your game with
That would have been a good time to change. You want one ticket?
Got it.
Thank you.
Hey. Wonderful. Got it. And we're in.
Okay, good. So you can see it?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
So let's see. We have a.
A clicker or something?
Let me see that I work with Google Slides.
Okay.
Breakfast at the
It's always good to test things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It should. Yay!
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
You
testing
bet.
that out.
Thanks for being here today. The conservation districts are fascinating, and I don't think people know
Aren't
enough.
they? I
Yeah.
know, and they're the best kept secret.
Exactly. So I'm glad you're here. I was excited to see you were going to be here.
Really?
Hi.
I'm not doing, am I doing a finance bit?
No.
Okay, good, because I have a question about, I mean, the request was to do something about scholarships. I'm not a scholarship person.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, I
we
can talk about investments about the scholarships, but that's it.
I think that's part of it. I mean, what would you feel like? What would it be like?
I mean, if Joanna could explain how many,
And how kind of what the process is like?
Well, I will be helping.
yeah,
I mean, if
I
you'd
don't
be-
know if I would get it right. I mean, I think they know how it works, but
I mean,
it's not really my deal.
it'd be great if you talked about the funding for it, and
And I
then
kind of did.
yeah, feel like it's covered. Okay, well, let me check in with Joelle and see what she wants, because if she wants to do it, that'd be great.
Now's the time.
Yeah, that's what it's all
People
happening.
seem to be confused about how we do it, but I can talk about the money if she could talk about the process.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yes. Thank you very much. Dick Houston and about Russian attachment. Years ago. Yeah.
Were you able to order some lunch? Oh, good. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've never been to a kind of fun to see anywhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Kiwanis is different from Rotary. Together kind of big services.
Yep.
Rotary is a little more business. Kiwanis is a lot of retirement. They have a lot of focus on education and state government in general. And just kind of people who are adjacent. And
Yeah, I've heard of about your wild too. And I was excited to get
retired, so it's kind of like
That's true, but
we're trying to get each one of us to differentiate.
Kiana, we didn't met before, but
Back when things were quite clear.
yeah, you're not like that.
This is the battle.
Things are different now.
Hello? we were like strategizing, how do we get this to be over with? And I ended up being legislature, because I was
Come on.
podcast and like streaming dollars like 6:30. And then it was the first time the state conservation never removed two elected commissioners. Never done it before. I remember like talked about what did happen. It's kind of like 2000. Like some people had PTSD who just come back from war. It's always on edge. Should be some couple of chapters about what
can happen.
And then testament to that was conservation of the year, like immediately after that. You get rid of the bad, staff and everybody else. Are you talking about conservation?
A little bit, but I'm going to talk about specific.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's get started with the pledge and inspirational moment with Dan Secor. Dan, are you around? There you are. Let's go.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you hear me okay? I'm Dan Secord. Sam asked me today if I was going to inspire everybody, and I told him that I feel about as inspiring today as a frog today. Whoops, okay. Well, anyway, I was asked to give an inspirational speech today, or a poem or something, and I don't really feel very inspirational, but I'm going to do my best. But first, I want to tell you that I'm going to read a poem. And of course, I would read a poem because all of you are very much aware that April is National Poetry Month, and so we read poems, right? And I've got a poem that was given to me about this time in 2020, right after the lockdown started for the pandemic, and this was sent to me by one of the poetry blogs that I support. And it's been on my desk in front of my computer ever since, because I thought it was quite relevant to me. The poet, her name is Ada Limon. She was for a while she was the poet laureate for the United States, so appointed by President Biden at the time. And she's also the winner of the Genius Award for her efforts to bring poetry to schools. And I'm also going to apologize for my voice. This is the height of my hay fever season. So I kept this poem there, and you can tell by the title why I would keep it there. The title of this poem is called Instructions on Not Giving Up. And it's a short poem. More than the fuchsia funnels breaking out of the crabapple tree, more than the neighbor's almost obscene display of cherry limbs shoving their cotton candy colored blossoms to the slate sky of spring rains, it's the greening of the trees that really get to me. When all the shock of white and taffy, the world's baubles and trinkets, leave the pavement strewn with the confetti of aftermath, the leaves come. Patient, plodding, a green skin growing over whatever winter did to us. A return to the strange idea of continuous living, despite the mess of us, the hurt, the empty. Fine then, I'll take it, the tree seems to say. A new slick leaf unfurling like a fist to an open palm. I'll take it all.
Thank you very much, Dan. You were inspirational, despite your reservations. Let's see. Do we have any guests in the house today besides our chief, I believe? Yes, Bob.
Fellow Kiwanians, it is my pleasure to introduce Chi, and I'm going to have her tell a little bit of who she is.
Hi everyone, my name is Chi Guevara. I am a certified financial planner, but I actually grew up in Lacey, my husband and I. He's in the military and we moved back home 2 years ago after moving around for 18, 19 years. So we are back home and looking to plant our roots. So we're excited to be here, and I'm excited to be here, so thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
Okay. Now, Jonathan has a really important announcement, so give me your attention.
You are probably aware that in past years we have done breakfast for fundraising, and this year we've decided to go straight into it and with a campaign for Caring for Kids to raise money for the Kiwanis Club Foundation, which supports our food bank gardens, scholarships, and partnerships with a law enforcement camp as well as the firewood project. So you'll notice on the table there's a flyer for Caring for Kids, and this information is going to go around to the club this week via email. So if you haven't already donated to the foundation, please do. Also, in the spirit of Caring for Kids, think of this as an opportunity to be a table captain, and think about 5, 10, 25 people who you know who might be interested in supporting our mission, and share that email with them. And reach out to me if I can facilitate sharing that by giving you some templates. But forward it to the people who you think would be interested in our work, or who have been to Caring for Kids in the past. So we will be sending this out via email next couple weeks, and then we'll be doing some actual mail campaign to reach some folks who who don't check other emails. So if you have any questions about it, come see me. We have a goal of about $20,000 by September 30, so that's doable. But we need to get to it. It's important. It directly funds the work that we do. So everything that we're excited and proud about comes from the fundraising we do through the foundation. So please be a part of that if you haven't already. I know a lot of you have, and I'm grateful for that, so thank you. So right, it's here. QR code. Jan Britt is our new expert in using QR codes. So if you have any questions about using QR codes, ask Jan. She knows how to do it. Thank you.
This is where you really got to use your networks. We really need your help in going out. I mean, this is where we're able to do all the things that we do. I know last year I said, okay, I've got this group, and where are the people I even need to stretch and ask them? And I think as we're doing a campaign like this, we've got to stretch a little farther than we've been and really encourage all of our members to get people. This is a time where we all got to step up. So I just encourage you to take a look at it, write it down on your to-do list, and have those set that you always ask, and then ask 3 or 4 more, okay? That's where we are. Okay, we have nomination committee. I'll bring up Sam and Mark. The two of you want to come up and do your thing? Come on up.
One is, we have a couple of vacancies that occurred mid-year. One of them is for treasurer, and the nominating committee is forward, and I will talk about the treasurer. The other is an open board position. The name I put forward is Sean Myers. Now, nobody's probably ever heard of him. Our former treasurer, our county treasurer, the assistant state treasurer. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close nominations for the position of treasurer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Fellow Kiwanians, it gives me great pleasure to put forth for the vacant board position Bob Thompson, otherwise known as Captain Husky. Would you please wave, Captain Husky? Captain
I
Husky.
vote no.
Just the
Can't do
nomination.
that. If you haven't met Bob, awesome, outstanding individual, and will make an excellent Kiwanis. He is retired and has time to dedicate to the Kiwanis Board of Directors. Very excited to put forth his nomination for the board. Are there any further nominations for the board? Are there any further nominations for the board?
I'd like to nominate Joel Hanson for the board.
And a nomination for Joel Hanson for the board. Where's Joel? Wave your hand, Joel. There you are. Hey, awesome. We have 2 nominations, Joel Hanson for the board. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Mr. Chairman?
I move the nomination.
It has been moved that the nominations be closed. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. So we have Bob Thompson and Joel Hanson both being nominated for the board. The elections will be held
May 12th.
May 12th. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. May 12th, we'll have an election. Thank you, everybody.
Get your mailings, get your yard
Okay, we have an Achieving by Believing presentation. Oh, before we do that, another chance to get connected to our students. I need some of you to volunteer for we have this thing called exit interviews. Capital's already got their volunteers. I don't have all of mine yet, but I knew where I could get some good ones. And so we are doing it May 19th in the afternoon. We don't have a meeting that day, I don't believe, but we'll have I think we're somewhere around 2:30 or so. I'll get more specifics, but I'll send a sign-up list. And if you're interested in participating, it's really listening to a senior and their reflections of their experience in high school. I think you'll really enjoy it. So I'd love to see a group of you do it. So if you have any questions, let me know, but I'll send a sign-up list around. As I was saying, we have Achieving by Believing today, and this week it's Capital High School's turn. They have a great one. Isabella Allenton, and I think Allenton? Sorry about that, Allenton. And got her mom, Crystal, here today. And what we have Brandy Schwartz, counselor, come up and say a few words about Isabel.
Thank you very much. I really would like to say thank you to everyone for hosting us at your wonderful luncheon today and for continuing to offer such a special award. Isabel was really an easy choice for us when we talked about the Achieving by Believing award. She's an amazing individual, an amazing human. She's a wonderful student. She has had several challenges she's had to overcome. She's moved a few times in her educational experiences. This year she came back to us at Capital for her senior year, which could be a little bit of a challenge socially and academically, but she came in smiling and ready to go, and that's pretty much how she faces every day. She's a leader in our school. She participates in our leadership crew, and she is active in our arts community. She's going to be in our school play Hadestown. She actually has one of the lead roles. It premieres and opens this Friday if anyone is interested. She's also very active with our special education program, our students in our specialized PE program. She just really is a wonderfully warm, open, caring person. She brings a little bit of sunshine and a smile to every room she comes into, and students definitely feel that when they're around her. She's very positive and uplifting. I think what really stands out for me as I've gotten to know Isabel, she does all of this with such grace, navigating really severe anxiety, and she has really had to learn how to persevere and overcome that and advocate for herself when needed. And through all of that, she just continues really to shine. I'm so excited to see what her future holds for her. She's got great things coming wherever she goes, and I'm just so thankful that we're able to honor her today. So thank you.
Let's recognize Isabel for this Achieving by Believing.
Well, I'm Isabel Allenton. board and my amazing counselors and my amazing principal. Being considered for the scholarship is not only an amazing opportunity, but it shows me how much others believe in my potential and my goals. I'm so excited to continue the meaningful work that I've been involved in at Capital, serving our community, and I look forward to carrying that momentum into the next chapter of my life. Thank you again for having me.
I mentioned that we have our principal from Capital, Condi Wood, here as well, another guest today. So welcome, Condi. Let's see. Who's introducing? Rhonda, you're introducing today. Rhonda Larson is here to introduce our program today. So welcome, Rhonda.
Hi, I'm happy to introduce Kiana Sinner, who is the Senior Education and Outreach Specialist at the Thurston Conservation District, and she provides environmental education, supports habitat restoration, project implementation, and facilitates the annual Native Plant Festival and Sale. Kiana has a strong interest in how our community connects with our local landscape and is passionate about helping people build a strong and sustainable relationship with the natural world. And if you like podcasts, I highly recommend listening to Conservation Starters, which is a brainchild of Kiana, who is also the podcast host, and I love it.
Thank you so much for that nice introduction. I'm excited to be here to chat with you all. So how many of you are familiar with the Thurston Conservation District? Okay, that's a lot. That's awesome. I love to see that. So that makes me feel really good because we're not going to talk a lot about the district as a whole. We're actually going to zoom in on a specific project that I'm excited to share a bit about that with you. So, clicker. So I'll just start by saying that this project was made possible through multi-agency partnerships. And you'll see several logos throughout the presentation, and those are the folks who were part of this, so I want to make sure that they're recognized. And the goal of the project really was to advance conservation for Oregon spotted frog, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But to start with, for those of you who are not familiar with the Thurston Conservation District, we are a non-regulatory organization, and we work with community members in Thurston County. We work with folks on a voluntary basis, and a lot of the practices we do are incentive-based. Conservation districts were formed in the 1930s, around the time of the Dust Bowl, as a response to natural resource concerns. And so we've been around since 1948. So we have a long-standing history in our community, and we've worked with many generations of family and have been able to really build trust among our community. The work that we do is extremely varied and is dependent on community need. But some kind of zoomed out look at what we do, we offer technical assistance for folks on private properties, and not always private properties, but a lot of times we work with landowners. And so that can look like working with agricultural producers to support their operation and to be sustainable and focus on farm practices that support our food system and don't harm the environment. We also work with folks who have natural resources along their properties, so maybe a wetland or a river, and we work with them to help conserve those areas. We also have a really robust education program. We work with K-12 students on scientific learning, and we also work with adults and offer lots of educational programming to support folks too. A lot of what we do is provide financial support as well, and that's through that incentive work. And so that can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes it can be a check. Sometimes it can be support through the help from our staff, or there's lots of different things, tax breaks, things like that. Okay, so that's a little bit about the organization that I work with, and so I'm going to dive into the project and talk a little bit more about that. So like I said, there's multiple partners on this project. And the components that we'll be talking about today are the development of a habitat suitability model, community and outreach and engagement, and social science research. And we'll be spending most of our time on the social science research piece. But the species in question today that we'll be talking about is the Oregon spotted frog. How many of you know about the Oregon spotted frog? Okay, a little less hands. Good, I love it. I love talking about frogs. So the Oregon spotted frog is a federally threatened and state endangered species here in Thurston County. Yes. Would it be helpful if I held it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I am pretty loud by myself. Okay. So the Oregon spotted frog once encompassed much of the West Coast, so from British Columbia down to California, lots of parts of Washington and Oregon, and now is limited to just a few basins in Washington and Oregon. And the Black River Basin is one of the last strongholds for this population. And so it is a species that is of interest for conservation, to protect and help, increase its numbers and also just, maintain the populations that we do have. So the Oregon spotted frog is unique. It requires really specific breeding habitat. And that habitat is, they need a source of permanent water, so something like a creek or a river that has seasonal wetlands. And so in these seasonal wetlands is where they lay their eggs. The water has to be a really specific depth. They like vegetation that's a really specific height, specific temperatures, lots of specifics. And we find this habitat often on agricultural land where folks have grazing happening or mowing or haying. And so you have that short pasture grass in seasonally inundated areas. They're impacted quite heavily by loss of habitat through development and climate change. There's lots of invasive species that have had a really negative impact. So things like reed canary grass and bullfrogs are really detrimental to populations. And then just hydrology changes, again, connecting to climate change and development has really impacted them. So without those specific water needs, they really can't lay eggs and thus they can't persist. The other kind of unique thing about this species is that they primarily exist on private properties and less on public properties or preserved sites. And so it's really important for the Conservation District to be included in this conversation because we, like I said, have a really long-standing history working with private landowners. And as many of you can probably imagine, when you're talking endangered species, that's a bit of a tricky conversation to have with some private landowners, understandably. And so we're looking at this project as a whole, and we really wanted to come at it in a way that supported landowners and included them in the conversation, while also looking for ways that we could find collaboration to conserve Oregon spotted frog habitat and help the species as well. So that's kind of the goal of the project. And then I'm going to dive into some social science research that we did that hopefully is interesting to you all. And this is really a model of a project that could be used for lots of different things. So the first thing that we did, and this was primarily done with the support of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Partners for Fish and Wildlife Program. They developed a new habitat suitability model, which prioritized parcels within the Black River watershed for Oregon spotted frog conservation. You can see on the, which side is this? The blue, the left-hand side. That was what the model used to look like, so that's what we were working off of. It was like, this is, it was very, very broad. This is where they might be. The model on, or the picture on the right is a parcel by parcel analysis of whether maybe that location is suitable for Oregon spotted frog. And so, and that's, excuse me. I'm sorry. And I'll just share that that is not a real photograph of the model. So, we're not sharing any private landowner information there. But it's just something for you to be able to see, to kind of visualize how much more specific this model allows us to be. And so really the goal of this is to guide our work so that we're talking to the people that should be a part of this conversation. Okay, so like I said, we wanted to better understand landowners. We wanted to know what their challenges were, what their barriers to doing Oregon spotted frog conservation work on their property is, and also what might motivate or incentivize them participating in this kind of work. We also really wanted to build trust, continue to build trust with this population, and as we get more into the future, we are going to continue this type of work, and if we don't start out on the right foot, we're not going to be successful. And the other thing that this project does is inform future program design. So as we're developing a program to support this species, this work will really come into play to make sure that the program that we develop is actually going to be first wanted and used by landowners, and also helpful for successful. So we did this through a series of outreach and engagement opportunities. We held educational workshops, which is an opportunity for people to just learn about the Oregon spotted frog. We also had a really robust landowner survey, and we held a listening session where folks could come and just tell us all about how they felt about this conversation. And I'll just share that everything was anonymous, so we were really cognizant and careful about landowner data and making sure that we kept those conversations as anonymous as possible to protect people. Okay, so what did we learn from this work? Well, the majority of people are willing to participate in an Oregon spotted frog conservation project or program. And so that's really exciting. But 53% is not everybody. So there is a chunk of people who are maybe not likely to participate. And so we wanted to understand what those barriers were to participation. And so we learned that folks were concerned about losing the loss of property value. They were concerned about the regulations that might exist now, but also in the future. And they were less than interested in having government involved in their private affairs. We also wanted to understand, for those who might not be interested in participating, what is it that would maybe change their mind or motivate them. And we learned that folks are genuinely interested in a program or a project that actually makes a difference. So is going to be very helpful on their specific property, and they're going to see the impact locally for the Oregon spotted frog, and not only that species, but other species as well. They really were interested in having decision-making authority and being a part of the process, and not just being told what to do, which makes sense. We also learned that awareness and education are a big part of increasing willingness. So once people knew more about the frog and about the struggles it was having, I lost my word. They were more willing to participate in a program that benefited the species. And then the last thing that we learned that is a really big takeaway from this project is that folks are interested in regulatory assurances. So right now, there are no existing regulatory assurances for the Oregon spotted frog for conservation practices that are connected to that. And so some of you may be familiar with something called a safe harbor agreement. That's a regulatory assurance. It's now called a conservation benefits agreement. And it's quite a large legal process, and there's a lot to it, but it's something that we learned from this research. Okay, so this is a lake path model, and you don't really need to know all the details, but the thicker and darker the line, the stronger the relationship. And so what we learned from this is that willingness is driven by attitudes, and attitudes are defined by experience with federal government. So, that makes sense, right? So if you have a bad experience with a federal regulation or a federal employee or something like that, that's in regards to restrictions with the endangered species, your perception might be negatively impacted, and that's going to negatively impact your willingness to participate in anything in the future, and vice versa. We also learned, like I said, that being knowledge level or awareness level about the species really increased folks' attitudes about the species and thus their willingness. And we saw this firsthand during this project. So we held a series of workshops and listening sessions, like I said, and during these, we had folks who talked to us or signed up or reached out to us about having our staff come out on their property and do what we call site visits, to talk with them about the frog and look at their property. And before we did this project, we had about 3 people a year who would do that, so not a large number. During the course of this project, that number shot up to 17. And so you can really see that direct tie to being engaged with and having a better understanding of the species really led to increased willingness. We also wanted to understand, like I said earlier, what might motivate or is the barrier to participation. So I think one of the really interesting things here is that you can see that no one program feature in this graph here was the most desired by landowners. And so that tells us that when we build a program, we need it to be diverse and have a lot of different options for different people who have different goals. The other really interesting thing that is unique, I would say, to this study and to this species is that the three features at the bottom, which are related to financial incentives, so tax credits, payments, and so 2 different kinds of payments and tax credits. So those are like financial incentives, what we would call them. Those were the least important to folks. That kind of makes us all go, why? Well, and the thing that we found as most important was regulatory program clarity, regulatory assurances, decision-making authority. Those were rated or ranked as more important. What we think is that financial incentives are not important, but rather they're a secondary barrier. So once we addressed the barrier of regulatory assurances, needing decision-making authority, program clarity, things like that, that then financial incentives would become more important. We also wanted to better understand how we could be collaborative partners and how other organizations who work on this, who work in the Oregon spotted frog world could also be better partners. And so we asked people how it's been going. And what we learned is that folks are interested in working in non-regulatory agencies, which makes sense in regards to some of the concerns people have around regulations. Folks had they described an increased need for respect, communication. One of the really intriguing takeaways that I think is that trust is cumulative. So just because, there's lots of different organizations. There's Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, there's US Fish and Wildlife, there's this other conservation organization, this one. They're all maybe having different touch points with one landowner. And landowners aren't viewing these as different connection points. They really recognize them as one cumulative interaction to some degree. And so if one agency or organization kind of leaves a bad taste in the mouth, that affects their whole view of people who may come down the line. So what that tells us, which is kind of common sense, it's important to make our interactions good and to build trust and to be respectful and to communicate and to collaborate because it's not a top-down approach. It's really collaborative and it's a partnership with landowners. So what are we doing now? Well, lots. We're taking this information and we are hoping to continue developing a program that meets the needs of our local landowners. But before that, we're still learning more. And so we are excited to continue holding some focused conversations with local landowners to better understand their needs. We're going to continue to hold educational opportunities because, like I said, that's a great way to get people engaged and get people excited about this work that's happening. We are working on developing a conservation benefits agreement, which is a legal process that takes a long time. And so we're in the beginning stages of looking at what that can look like in the future. And that part of that is talking to landowners to understand what, if that's going to meet their needs. And then we also are coordinating on the ground projects. So we do project implementation. We have several Oregon spotted frog projects that we're working on actively to support the species and also support agricultural viability in our area. And like I said at the start of this presentation, those things go really well together. And so a lot of the folks we're working with are farmers, and we're able to enhance actually their agricultural operation while also supporting the preservation and conservation of this fun little species. Okay, so that's just some acknowledgements for folks who worked on this project with me, but I am happy to take some questions if anybody has those. Yes?
I've lived most of my life on the other side of the country, so I'm not familiar with this spotted frog. Could you give me your 20, 30 second elevator speech about why this species matters? I understand that you obviously take great care of it, but it could just be useful to understanding the context of this.
Totally. So one of the kind of the way I like to describe it is, so I think one thing that's important to know is that amphibians are the fastest decreasing species as a result of climate change. And so, we're seeing that firsthand locally. On top of that, often amphibians are what we call an indicator species. So they tell us, as those populations start to decline, it's telling us that there's going to be a ripple effect. And so if we can help support the species, the first set of species that begin disappearing, we're actually helping all of the species down the line. Because we're there's a lot of moving pieces. Like the way a wetland works doesn't only benefit the frog, it benefits lots of other species too. And so, it's a whole functioning ecosystem that's complicated and has a lot of moving parts. And if we take one thing out of that, it's like a domino effect. Yes?
Could you tell us what the size is of
Ooh,
the
yes.
frog? And what does it sound like? I think it's very where I live.
Mhm.
Does it sound like this?
I love this question. It's a medium-sized frog, so about that big, so not huge. So most people have seen a bullfrog. That's not what we're talking about. It's closely related to the red-legged frog, easily confused for the red-legged frog actually. And except that one thing that it has that maybe I can back up here because I think this is fun.
All your pictures make it look really good.
I know, you're right. But here's a piece of grass, so not huge. This species, one of the unique features is it has chartreuse, upward-facing eyes. So that's one of the ways to identify it. And then as far as the sound, the call it makes, the chances of you hearing it are very low because it sounds kind of like, it's like if you knock on your head, that's how I describe it. Just like that's what it sounds like. It's like a clicking, kind of knocking noise. Yep. Yeah.
As a follow-up to Nancy's question about why is this frog important? So you said that wetlands preservation, yeah, okay, but where it is, why are those wetlands important? Are they on top of our drinking water aquifer for Thurston County? I mean, we're the ultimate species, right? Why is this important for us? Why should we care? Why don't I just run cows and horses there?
Well, and the cool thing is, with Oregon spotted frog, there is a way to run cows and horses. Because most of these are seasonally inundated areas, they actually dry up half of the year. And so they can be used for other purposes like agriculture, and they're protected in, the winter. And again, wetlands serve as our filtration system. They are nature's filter. And so they're really important that we preserve them because, like you said, they do protect our drinking water and they do protect our aquifers, and they keep our water clean. Yeah.
So I was having a conversation just this weekend with a rancher here in Thurston County. His family's been ranching here for generations, about the spotted frog. And he said something really interesting. He said that if they were to observe the buffers that ecology wants them to have around wetlands, even seasonal wetlands, that it results in a decrease in the spotted frog population. But in the places where they don't tell ecology, but they mow around the wetlands or they graze up to the wetlands, that the frogs can access those seasonal wetlands for breeding more successfully. So I wonder if you could talk about where the regulation from one agency is in conflict with the best available science for a particular species.
Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up, and it's an ongoing conversation. And you're 100% right. So what we're seeing, there is scientific evidence, and really just, you can walk out and see it, evidence, that agriculture is sustaining this species. And so, like I said, how wetlands, these seasonal wetlands dry half of the year and are wet half of the year. Well, folks who, like ranchers, who Joel's talking about here, if they run their cattle or they hay in these areas during the dry part of the year, they are actually maintaining the grass in those spaces to the correct height of the that the Oregon spotted frog needs to breed come the winter time. And so that's a really cool partnership that we're seeing, and it's mimicking natural processes. So things like elk grazing, indigenous folks using prescribed burning, things like that. And so it's been really successful, and there has been lots of studies done on is letting cows in this area affecting our water, right? Because that's the first thing we think about. And actually, no, it's not, because there's not water there during that part of the year. It's not impacting the wetland negatively. And so there's some exciting research that's coming out around that. And like I said, it's an ongoing conversation. And the conservation district works at a non-regulatory level. And so, we definitely are cognizant of the regulations that exist. And we also support landowners and work on these kinds of complicated conversations to help find those connection points that really meet the needs of everybody. Yeah.
There's certain species where you have more support from the community, and other species where you have a lot less support.
That's a great question. Yeah. So I'm sure many people in this room can imagine that the conversation around species like pocket gophers is complicated. Yeah. And that's because that conversation didn't start out right? We're trying to leave this conversation in a way that before we get to pocket gopher territory, where it's extremely conflicting. And so yes, the answer to your question is yes, there are species where this conversation is hard to have at this point. And our goal with this type of project is to head that off and to be proactive and start the conversation off right. Yeah, one more question. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah?
Well, I was going to add a comment and then ask you a question.
Okay.
I used to be on the State Conservation Commission myself, and one of the things that we found with the Conservation Reserve Investment Program grants is that those come with some things that a lot of farmers don't like, which is if you take this money, then you must keep, if you're going to build a fence or some other structures to help the environment, you have to keep it up for a minimum of 5 years or something like that. So there's a little bit of a long-term commitment there for them, which some people don't like, but many do. I mean, many did accept that money and put in structures that help. Second thing I was thinking about was, aside from the mowing of, say, grass fields or hay, what other BMPs are employed to help out with the spotted frog?
That's a great question. We're still learning. And so a lot of what's happening right now is continuous maintenance of these areas. And that means mowing, grazing, haying, but new methods are being explored. So there is a local land trust that has done pond construction to replicate or mimic habitat. And that's, still includes a lot of maintenance. Maintenance is hard to avoid at this point in where we are with the invasion of green canary grass and bullfrogs and things like that. But there are other folks, including, the district, that are exploring different styles of restoration projects that are more process-based, so meaning less maintenance around them. But those are still in really the learning phase. Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I think we might have some announcements and happy dollars coming up. If you've gone up with the slide.
Don Halverson here. First of all, that was very informative, and a brave young lady. Let's give her a hand. It's dangerous talking to the landowners that say, get off my property. We don't like the government. I have a happy dollar. How many people have hearing aids like me? Got a few of us here? Guess what? The Hearing Loss Association of America on Saturday at Town Hall in Seattle gave the Outstanding Community Partner Award to our own Walt Bowen. Where is he? There he is. President of the Washington Senior Lobby. You know what? He lobbied for poor people to get more hearing aids and so on. Well done, Walt.
I had a happy dollar this last week. I had the good fortune to go with 12 other gentlemen to Central Western Oregon to Silver Falls State Park and hike there for a couple of days. And it's if you've not been there, it's a wonderful place to go. Lots of waterfalls. I wanted to, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about the garden. I wanted to identify several of our members who are here today who have helped recently with planting and weeding in gardens. You remember about a month and a half ago, I brought some small onion plants. Those onions now have grown to be 6 to 8 inches tall and are loving the territory on the Capitol campus where we're going to plant it. Rose Bosio, Deborah Clemens, Don Leaf, and Doug Allen have helped out recently with volunteered to help plant and weed at that garden. And if you are looking for an opportunity to find out how much fun they're having, that will be this Thursday from 9 until noon on the Capitol campus, close to Maple Park and Capitol Way. The little garden is there. We've got potatoes, onions, garlic going with squash and carrots and other vegetables to follow in that garden. I wanted to mention, Kiana, we have a greenhouse to start our vegetables, and this morning I was over there, and a little American green tree frog hopped out and greeted me. Actually, we eat, there are several green tree frogs in the greenhouse, so we have a big habitat for it.
Sam Reed, a cougar dollar, and believe it or not, a husky dollar. Cougar dollar is Sam Hunt was appointed to be on the Board of Regents for Washington State University. Quite a Well, the Kiwanis can take pride, they have somebody, when we were prominent research universities, it used to be kind of a cushy job, drinks and hors d'oeuvres and all with celebrities. Well, right now, the WSU is having problems with funding, problems with enrollment, a brand new president needs to be broken in, athletics are in a state of, tumult, so Sam, you have a big job. Anyway.
Tell me about it.
The second Husky dollar is in memory of Les Eldridge, because I read on this sports page today of the University of Washington men's crew was behind the #1 crew in the nation, University of California, by 1.7 seconds halfway through the course. Came roaring back and beat him by 1/2 a second. Mind you, boys in a boat, but here's for Les.
Anita Carter, and I have 2 happy dollars, one for food and one for frogs. So the frogs, yes, we have a huge pond near our house and we can't even hear ourselves think when we go outside at night. But the one about food was the Caring for Kids campaign that we have reminded me very much of the Olympia World Affairs Council, which I have Sam Reed and Ralph Monroe to thank for setting up 40 years ago. Frank and I are on the board. Frank's retired. But the Olympia World Affairs Council is having on May 15th a discussion and a talk about the food system that we have now. And this is by Evergreen Professor Prita Lau. And she's going to talk about long-term food security and sovereignty and how we can disconnect maybe from the industrial food system that we have, which is exactly what Kiwanis is doing with our food bank and our gardens. So I'll leave a flyer up there. This is May 15th if anybody would like to come and hear her talk about food security. Thank you very much.
Hi, it's Joanne. I'm just following up on Mr. Grant's announcement. So the senior exit interviews are check-in at 9:45 a.m. on May 20th, and it goes from 10:15 to 12:30. There's a sign-up sheet going around, and I also forwarded an email for those more technology savvy or wanting to look at their calendars at home that Jonathan can send out hopefully later, that lets you link into a Google Drive where you can sign up. So it's a great opportunity to see more youth like we got to see today and celebrate those students as they move out into the community. So I hope you join.
Phil Hansen, I've got a couple of happy dollars. This last week and last weekend, the Thurston County Planning Commission held public hearings on the draft of the 20-year comprehensive plan for Thurston County. We were there for 4 hours on Wednesday and 4 hours again on Saturday. And there was a young woman that came and gave comment on Wednesday night. It was the most specific and well-researched and impressive comment that we had seen, bar none. And all of the planning commissioners were kind of struck dumb by it and didn't really react in the moment. But luckily, she came back again on Saturday and gave a different comment addressing different parts of the plan that was equally well-researched. And this time we were ready. We told her how impressed we were. And some of the staff connected with her to see, what are you planning to study? Are you going into public health? Like, let us help you, let us write record. We all thought she was a high school senior. Turns out she's a 14-year-old freshman at North Thurston High School. Who is also I've got a dollar for whoever's teaching civics in the middle schools in North Thurston, and then it turns out she's also a Girl Scout, so I've got a dollar for scouting, and this. So the end of the story is, we told her we have a vacancy on the County Planning Commission, and she's going to apply, and we might have a 14-year-old high school freshman on the Planning Commission.
That's a great comment. I'm Rhonda Larson-Kramer, and I just wanted to update people with my happy dollar on the Davis Meeker Oak, because it's a little old news now, but I haven't been here since it happened, but the risk assessment, the second risk assessment came back and showed that the tree was healthy. as we predicted. And the tree now is going to get well-needed upkeep and maintenance, which Tamara hadn't been doing. And in addition, we are still litigating, believe it or not. We're in the Court of Appeals, and the oral arguments, the Court of Appeals has set the oral arguments for June. And so we'll be having some moot courts to prepare for those. And you may ask, why are you still litigating? I actually think that the Court of Appeals is interested in doing a published opinion in this case, and it does unpublished opinions and it does published opinions. And when they're unpublished, which is almost all the time, almost all opinions are unpublished, they can't be used as precedential, but they can be used as advisory. If it's published, it's precedential, so it's binding precedent. And I think that this case is there hasn't been anything really decided on this type of thing involved in the part of archaeology and historic preservation before, where there's a tree as opposed to a building. And so I'm hoping that the court is going to issue something published that people in the future can use in similar situations, because trees have value, and there are many trees that are manipulated by humans in the past, and they're very old, and so they should be looked at a little bit differently and hopefully preserved. So thank you.
One more. Dave Peeler here. Couple of dollars here. I wanted to thank many of you for your support, condolences after my wife passed away a couple months ago. It's been a really struggle for me to deal with that. But on a happy note, I was down Saturday, and I hope many of you were too, to the Procession of the Species, Saturday afternoon in downtown Olympia, where almost every street in downtown was closed. So if you drove down there, like I had expected to find a place to park, first you couldn't get on most of the streets anyway. And second, there was already 10,000 people down there when I got there. So there were no parking spaces within about a mile and a half of downtown. So my next question was, anybody here on the IT board for I think, where are the shuttle buses to get us all down there and out again? Because it was a tremendous traffic issue down there. But it was really fun watching the Procession of the Species, a lot of creativity, as you might imagine, goes into the costumes and the get-ups that people have. It's always something new that you haven't seen before. And then you have to ask yourself, what is that? Oh, I get it, now I get it, yeah. So that's always great. And then the second thing, right afterwards, when I managed to get back to my car and drive up to South Capitol area, I went to the Lord Mansion where I ran into Nina and Tom Rainey and a few other folks who were around 40 years ago when the Masters in Environmental Studies program was started at Evergreen, and Nina and I were part of the very first class in that year. It was funny to think back 40 years ago. These things hit you sometimes. But there was a bit of a party up there at the Lord Mansion for those of us who were from different years from that program. And I did run into half a dozen or so other folks that were there in the very first year of the program, which was kind of fun to see. What are you doing now? Well, most of us are retired 40 years later. But what do we do in the meantime? So we had some nice conversations about our careers and different programs that we worked on. So I was very thankful. It was a nice day. I was exhausted after both the procession and then going to the party and then going home after that. But it was a fun weekend. I hope that those of you who didn't go to the Procession of Species, you make it a point to maybe talk to IT next year to have some shuttle buses and go down yourself to enjoy it.
We have a Raffle Award winner today.
We do, Lucille.
General Fund, okay. Thank you very much. Great job. Nice program today. Congratulations. Great program. Thank you. And thanks for all your comments. We are adjourned.
Mr. Lane, always a pleasure.
Hey, Joel? Yeah.
That's showing this,